Good morning. The October 2nd, 2018 meeting of the Douglas County Board of Commissioners will come to order, and we are pleased to have with us this morning Mr. Russell Tassone, and he is from our Code Enforcement Department, one of our leaders. Here with us this morning for our invocation, and after the invocation, please remain standing for our pledge to the flag.
I'd like to thank the board, as always, for the invitation to open this meeting in prayer. And we're going to start off with a reading from the book of Ephesians in chapter 2, verses 14 through 16. It says, "For he is our peace, who made both groups one and tore down the dividing wall of hostility. In his flesh he did away with the law of the commandments and regulations, so that he might create in himself one new man from the two, resulting in peace. He did this so that he might reconcile both to God in one body through the cross, and put the hostility to death by it." Let's pray. Lord, we come to you this morning and we thank you for your reconciliation and peace through your Son. I ask for your presence to be felt here in this meeting, and I'm grateful for the knowledge that even though people have differences in beliefs, attitudes, lifestyles, and mindsets, we can all find a common ground and a peace through the sacrifice and love brought on by your Son, Jesus. Lord, bless this meeting place and everyone in it. We love you and we praise you in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Tassone, for being here with us this morning, leading us in our invocation. Good morning, and we are delighted that everyone has joined us this morning, and we appreciate your participation in local government. Public comment, we have one citizen who signed up for public comment this morning, and we, the Board of Commissioners, respect our citizens' right to address their government. And as the chair, I plan and I will enforce the 3-minute rule. And when you hear the sound of the buzzer, please wrap your sentence up. The floor will be taken back by me at that point. Please avoid campaigning or personal attacks on any officials, elected officials, or anybody in this body today. Our first citizen is Mr. Larry Pierce. Could you please come forward? Please state your name and your address, and please begin.
Larry Pierce, 4120 Van Sant Road, Douglasville, Georgia. Good morning, Madam Chair, fellow council people. Well, I'm going to keep my hat on because it makes me look a little younger.
Okay.
And I think better when I'm younger. So, last night when I came in at about 9 o'clock, I saw the most interesting thing that inspired me that has to do with the indigent cremations. And what happened is, as my van pulls in the driveway, I always make a U-turn, and a telephone line that goes to all our houses. My headlight caught this recluse spider working its tail off. And I was so intrigued by it that I backed up and I got a bucket and I sat down for 1 hour watching it. And this spider works in the dark, and it made concentric circles almost 2 feet in diameter, and it worked and worked and worked. And I thought, you know, if we all could be inspired by how hard this spider worked to catch its prey. So let me tell you what I did. I went in and made some phone calls at about 10 o'clock. And everybody seems to be in the blind about what's going on. Well, let me just first say that the first thing I think you need to think about is how many times has the coroner been over budget? Now, you've saved her from the quagmire, and you've pulled her out of the quicksand. Fine. All right. But she wants more money. There aren't any more indigents than there were last year on the estimated value coming up, another 6,000 on the 30, which makes it 36. Now let me tell you what the law is. Nobody knows the law. I just got it hot off the press half an hour ago. Under 3612.5, under DFACS. DFACS is the governing authority that gives the coroner and the local governing authority the right to do and pay the bill for the indigent. But DFACS, guess what? Every one of the counties that's around us, Carroll, Fulton, Cobb, Paulding, but I'm gonna throw in a few more. Clayton. They use DFACS. Now why? DFACS goes out and talks to the family and says, hey, I believe you, but let's fill out some papers. When they fill out the papers, they send it to the county. Guess what? Coroner ain't got nothing to do with it, except sometimes they work hand in hand as kind of a policy, but that's not what the law is. Now.
Mr. Pierce,
Yes, ma'am.
your 3 minutes. The buzzer just sounded. The buzzer just sounded.
Buzzer done went off?
Yes.
Well, I'm getting hard of hearing.
Oh.
And I want to say, whoever got the panic button last night, there were 5 deputies out there waiting for me. And thank you for letting me come back in. And John left, and they got called in and said it was a ruckus. All I said was, speak up, speak up. And you heard the rest.
Yes, sir.
So like I say, this ain't over till the fat lady sings. And I'm learning to cross-dress.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Pierce, for participating in local government. Next, we have the approval of the minutes. Board of Commissioners, I ask that you look at those minutes. You have the minutes of the commission meeting, September 18, 2018. You have the work session minutes of September 17, 2018. And you have the executive session minutes of September 17, 2018. Are there any corrections, additions, or deletions that need to be made, Commissioners?
No, ma'am.
Being none, the minutes stand as approved. This morning, we have 4 proclamations. In tab number 4, we'll start with tab number 4, proclaiming the month of October 2018 as Cybersecurity Awareness Month in Douglas County. Our Director of Information Systems, Mr. Russ Martin, would you please come forward? And thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me, and good morning.
Good morning.
So, on behalf of the Information Services staff, which joined us, and the Technology Committee, who met yesterday, I'd just like to say thank you for giving us an opportunity to quickly share a few stats and then read this proclamation.
Okay.
According to the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, between the year 2000 and 2017, over 4 million internet crime complaints were lodged. In 2017 alone, there were 300,000. Those 300,000 resulted in about $1.4 billion in losses to the complainants. Top 3 reported crimes. 1 was online purchase fraud. So it's not a business problem necessarily. This is where you sold something online, you never received payment, or you bought something online and you never received the good. Second thing was a personal data breach. This is where individuals, not necessarily businesses, are taken advantage of through their internet usage. Number 3 are email scams. This one is one that we test for constantly here at the county. We do great compared to what we used to do. But email losses or losses from email scams for 2017 were over $675 million for businesses and persons, right? So this is not just a corporate problem. It's something that everybody in their homes and businesses both need to look into. So cyber awareness is not just a business topic. It needs to be front of mind for all of us that use the internet. So at this time, I'll read the proclamation.
Okay.
Whereas Douglas County recognizes the use of the internet and internet-connected devices is now routine for government agencies, citizens, and businesses to communicate, conduct business, manage finances, enhance educational opportunities, and provide entertainment. And whereas essential businesses and services are increasingly dependent on technology to support finances, telecommunications, transportation, utilities, healthcare, and emergency response systems. And whereas technology users are increasingly asked for and comfortable sharing personal information online, businesses and governments store essential private information in technology systems, and these technology infrastructures face increasing threats from spyware, ransomware, viruses, and other malicious cyber attacks focused on robbing us of our financial resources, personal information, and privacy through ransoms, identity theft, and fraud. And whereas maintaining the security of data and technology systems is both a shared and personal responsibility in which each of us has a critical role, and awareness of computer security essentials will improve the security of stored information and help protect Douglas County, its citizens, and its businesses. And whereas the United States Department of Homeland Security, the National Cybersecurity Alliance, and the state of Georgia recognize October as National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And during this month, all individuals as well as public and private organizations are encouraged to visit these sites to learn about cybersecurity and put that knowledge into practice in their homes, schools, and workplaces. Now, therefore, the Douglas County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim the month of October 2018 as Cybersecurity Awareness Month in Douglas County.
Thank you so much, Mr. Martin. Appreciate you. And you most recently were featured in the newspaper for your attendance in Augusta. Well, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure.
Your experience?
State of Georgia is actually doing something very exciting with a cybersecurity center that they put together and invested a ton of money in down in Augusta. They foresee this as an area where they can bring businesses, educational partners, and government together to begin to study and research what's going on in cybercrime and just our cyber environments in general. So I think it's a great opportunity for us to engage with the state, with business leaders, to see what they're doing and learn from them. And also there'll be educational opportunities as they move forward for local governments and other state agencies that'll come to us at a much lower cost than what we would have to do if we were buying it privately. So I applaud the state for what they're doing there.
Thank you so much, and thank you for leading the effort here in Douglas County. Board of Commissioners, you have heard this proclamation. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? We have a motion and a second. Please prepare to cast your votes. We have a unanimous 4-0 vote. Thank you. The motion carries. Thank you so much. And we would love to take a photograph with you. Would you like to come up with us? Yes. Or we'll come down if you have. Everybody that's involved with cybersecurity and our information systems department, please come, and we'll come down and take a photograph with you. We appreciate you. Thank you for your patience. And we appreciate what our information system, or should I say our department, is doing to lead the county forward in terms of cybersecurity. Next, we have our next proclamation is proclaiming the month of October 2018 as Douglas County Behavioral Health Month in Douglas County. Hello, Judge Walker is here to read the proclamation this morning. Thank you so much.
Good morning. It's
Good
my
morning.
pleasure to start by sharing with you some amazing news. You have had the vision to have someone to work with community outreach, to look for resources for us, and as a result of Tiffany Stewart Stanley's work, we have received a SAMHSA grant in excess of $800,000 to serve parents in our community with substance use disorders. We know that the foundation of good mental health is a safe childhood, and this is going to assist us in providing our children with safe childhoods. So I thank you for your vision, I thank you for your leadership, and I'm really, really excited about this opportunity to expand the services that we provide. Whereas behavioral health challenges affect almost every family in America, and whereas people with behavioral health challenges recover if given the necessary services and supports in their communities. And whereas millions of adults and children are disabled by behavioral health challenges every year, and whereas stigma and fear of discrimination keep many who would benefit from behavioral health services from seeking help, and whereas good behavioral health is critical to the well-being of our communities, schools, and businesses. And whereas greater public awareness about behavioral health challenges can change negative attitudes and behaviors toward people with behavioral health challenges. Now, therefore, Douglas County Board of Commissioners do hereby proclaim the month of October 2018 as Douglas County Behavioral Health Month, and call upon all Douglas County citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions, business and schools to recommit our community to increasing awareness and understanding of behavioral health challenges, reducing stigma and discrimination, and promoting appropriate and accessible services for all people with behavioral health challenges. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Judge Walker, for your continued efforts with leading behavioral health forward in Douglas County, and that amazing surprise that you just shared with us. I have tears in my eyes. Thank you, Tiffany Stewart Stanley and Judge Walker, for working so hard to garner dollars to support mental health here in Douglas County. Board of Commissioners, you have heard the proclamation. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion? Okay, Commissioner Robinson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be very brief. And again, Judge Walker, thank you. Director Stewart Stanley, thank you so much for your efforts. It's to watch how mental health has blossomed in Douglas County. It was for a time such as now. 3 years ago, we started this whole mental health walk. Very small, public awareness, outreach. And to go from a $50,000 grant, this Board of Commissioners, the Board of Commissioners made available. And to see where it is right now, in that we're heading in the right direction. The need is there. We know the need is there. Judge Walker will attest that the need is there, but we're making the right decisions. We're not just, again, think about it. We're leveraging our local dollars to access both state and federal, in this case, dollars. Right? That's the way you should do it. And so I'm delighted about how we're optimizing our contribution to meet the needs of the citizens. That's all I want to say, Madam Chair. Just thank you so much for your leadership, Judge Walker. I yield.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Guider.
Yes, and I want to piggyback on that too. Judge, you do a magnificent job. I attended a conference over at Cobb Wellstar not too long ago, and it was on drug abuse. And I was amazed at there were doctors that were doing the presentation, and they were talking that the drugs that we're putting in our bodies, our people are putting in their bodies, actually prevents their frontal lobe of their brain from determining right from wrong. And that's why you have crime, so much crime related to the drugs. And they're now treating drug abuse as a disease, just like they do alcohol. And so I just wanted to share that because my eyes were opened, and I never thought, you know, we always say, well, why don't they just stop? Why don't they just stop? Where their brain isn't operating right. And that's why they're even using other medications to help withdrawal, but there is help out there. There is help. This was presented by Riverbend facility and the doctors there, but there were a lot of law enforcement people there. In fact, I think I was the only county commissioner there, but mostly it was law enforcement people there. But thank you for what you're doing. And I yield back.
Thank you so much. We have a motion and second. Please prepare to cast your votes, commissioners. The vote is 4-0. The motion carries. Thank you. Congratulations. And thank you again, Judge Walker, for your amazing contribution to mental health and behavioral health here in Douglas County. Thank you. And we will take a photograph, and we'll come down, and everyone that's associated with Behavioral Health Month and the event, and please just come forward and take a photograph with us. We appreciate you.
Stack them deep back there.
Pull it over there. Pull it on down.
We in the picture. Somebody needs to get that.
Yes. I believe I wanted to acknowledge a few elected officials this morning that are here. We have Mayor Pro Tem Richard Siegel. We have our superintendent of the school system, Mr. Trent North, here this morning. Good morning. We have Devitran Cotwell, our school board member. We had Representative Bodie here, but he's still here. Representative William Bodie is here. We appreciate you this morning for coming. We have our tax commissioner, Greg Baker, here this morning. Thank you so much. And then we have Mr. Ray Lightford from Community Service Board here. He represents our Community Services Board here. We have a brand new building, and I'm so proud of it. So thank you for being here this morning. Next, we have our proclamation, and it is proclaiming the week of October 7th through 13, 2018, as Fire Prevention Week in Douglas County. And we have our wonderful Chief Scott Spencer here this morning. Chief?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before we get to the proclamation, I'd like to introduce our new fire marshal, Jay Williford.
I'd like to say that I appreciate the hospitality.
You can come up to the mic, Mr. Williford. Congratulations
I'd
and
just like
welcome.
to say I appreciate the hospitality everyone's given me. I started about 3 weeks ago, and it's been great.
Well, welcome and thank you.
Jay, I'm not going to say replaced Scott Bishop, but Jay is our new fire marshal. Scott retired last Friday after 33 years of service to the county.
Wow,
So,
that's amazing.
He will be missed, but Jay's getting geared up to take his spot, and we're good to go. I also want to remind everybody that in a couple of weeks we're going to have a time change. We have to fall back. All right, we got to turn our clocks back. So every year when we turn our clocks back, we also need to change our smoke detector batteries.
Okay.
And just in case you don't have a smoke detector battery, we will provide you with smoke detector batteries. So you can go by any fire station or fire headquarters, and we'll be more than happy to give you those smoke detector batteries. If you don't feel comfortable installing them, we will even install them.
Okay.
We have several thousand, like 56,000 batteries to give to our residents. So that was done with a grant from Keep Douglasville Beautiful and Keep Douglas County Beautiful. So we appreciate our partners there.
56,000.
And then last but not least, October 1st, the burn ban was lifted. So people can now burn outside again, but they still need to have a permit, and that will be weather permitting, of course. So you can call, you can go to the local fire station, get the permit, or come by admin. So, Fire Prevention Week. Whereas the Douglas County Board of Commissioners is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting Douglas County, Georgia, and whereas fire is a serious public safety concern, both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at the greatest risk from fire, and whereas home fires killed 2,735 people in the United States in 2016, according to the National Fire Protection Association. And the fire departments in the United States responded to 352,000 home fires. The majority of U.S. fire deaths, 4 out of 5, occur at the home each year. And whereas the fire death rate per 1,000 home fires reported to U.S. fire departments was 10% higher in 2016 than in 1980, and whereas working smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in reported home fires in half, residents should install smoke alarms in every sleeping room, outside each separate sleeping area, and on every level of the house. And whereas residents should listen for the sound of the smoke alarm, and when it sounds, respond by going outside immediately to the designated meeting place. Residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. And whereas Douglas County's first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection and education. And whereas residents are responsive to public education measures and are able to take action to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. Whereas the 2018 Fire Prevention Week theme, Look, Listen, Learn, Be Aware, Fire Can Happen Anywhere, effectively serves to remind us that we need to take personal steps to increase our fire safety from fire. Therefore, the Douglas County Board of Commissioners do hereby proclaim October 7th through the 13th, 2018 as Fire Prevention Week throughout Douglas County. And we urge all the people of Douglas County to be aware of their surroundings, look for available ways out of, in the event of a fire or other emergency, respond when the smoke alarm sounds by exiting the building immediately, and to support the many public safety activities and efforts of the Douglas County Fire and Emergency Services during Fire Prevention Week 2018. So proclaimed the second day of October 2018.
Thank you so much, Chief, and thank you for your tremendous support and your work, and also your entire team and Fire Marshal. Thank you all for what you do to protect the citizens of Douglas County in terms of fires. Board of Commissioners, you have heard the proclamation. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? We have a motion and a second. Please prepare to cast your votes. We have a 4-0 unanimous vote. The motion carries. Thank you so much, Chief, and we'll come down and take a photograph with you. How many people you have with? Oh, you can come up today. Would y'all like to come up and take a photograph with the Board of Commissioners? We really appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you again, Chief Spencer, for that wonderful proclamation today. And last but not least, for our proclamations, tab number 7, proclaiming November 4th, 2018 as Retired Educators Day in Douglas County. And that proclamation will be read by Ms. Pat Lickinger. Thank you, Ms. Lickinger, for being here today.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to thank Dr. Jackson for coming to the Retired Educators meeting in September. She opened it up, our first meeting. I'm here not for John Stone. I think there was a lack of communication.
Yes, ma'am.
Whereas the governor of the state of Georgia has proclaimed the day of Sunday, November 4th, 2018 as Retired Educators Day in Georgia, and whereas there are more than 121,000 retired educators in Georgia, 28,000 plus of whom are members of the Georgia Retired Educators Association, and whereas the retired educators of Georgia donate thousands of hours of volunteer service and make invaluable contributions to the welfare of their respected communities across the state, and whereas it is appropriate that a day be designated for citizens to express their appreciation for the contributions that retired educators have made and continue to make for the betterment of the human lives and for society. And whereas local churches will recognize those lasting contributions made by retired educators in this community. Now, therefore, the Douglas County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim Sunday, November 4th, 2018 as Retired Educators Day and call upon the citizens of Douglas County to observe that day in an appropriate manner, honoring retired as educators.
Thank you so much, Ms. Flickinger. I would like to say it was an honor to be there to speak to the retired educators a week ago. I certainly appreciate what you all have done, and I made it clear that you all have changed the lives of others and made a difference and made us, some of us, great, and you have just touched us all one way or another. Thank you so much for your ultimate sacrifice as an educator, retired educator, and we appreciate you. Board of Commissioners, you have heard the proclamation. Do we have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? We have a motion and a second.
Ma'am,
Yes, Commissioner Guide.
what I like so much about your organization is y'all stay involved. I've never seen a group of people that stay so involved, and you stay involved with the legislature and the laws coming down governing the school system. So I appreciate your service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I yield back.
You're back. Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. Please prepare to cast your votes. We have a 4-0 unanimous vote, and the motion carries. Congratulations, and thank you for your service as a retired educator. May we have a photograph with you? Do you have any other retired educators here with you?
As I said, I think there was a lack of communication somewhere because I set this up this summer.
Oh, okay. Well, we would love to take a photograph with
Okay.
you.
I'll come up.
Okay, thank you. If not, we can come down. You're okay? Thank you so much, Ms. Flickinger. We appreciate what you and the retired educators are doing and continue to do in Douglas County. Thank you so much. Next, we will move to our business item, tab number 8, authorization to amend the coroner's budget to cover the cost of indigent cremations. Jennifer Hallman, if you could come forward and just share your insight about this particular item on the agenda.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, it came to our attention that the coroner was going to be running out of funds for cremations for indigent care or for indigent people. And so we reviewed her budget and also did a trend since back in 2010 just to see how many the county had to pay. By state law, we are required to pay for those cremations. They're around $1,000, I think $995 is what the funeral homes charge. And we went back to 2010, and 2010 there was 23 cremations. 2011 there was 21. 2012 there was 20. In 2013 there was 16, and then we started seeing the uptick from 13. In 14 there was 21. In 15 there was 29. In 2016 there was 33. In 2017 there was 36. And through August of this year, there was 31. So we brought this before the Finance Committee and showed the trends. For 8 months, around 31, 32 cremations. That's around 4 a month. She was given around a $25,000 budget. So we need to, this request is actually asking for additional funds to cover the deficit of around $5,000. And that would pay for all the cremations through the month of August that we're aware of. We got a bundle of invoices from April through August, maybe about a week or so ago, and that's when we realized that she was going to be running over. Again, this is a cost that she doesn't control in the sense of we're required by law to pay for these indigent cremations. So what this request is I think the original agenda item was for $16,000, but we need to add $5,000 for the current deficit, so it'd be a total of $21,000. And this would be coming from contingency.
Okay. So those invoices, are they from the coroner or from the funeral homes? Are they coming?
They're coming from the funeral home to the coroner, and then the
Then she
coroner is
sends them
responsible
to
enter it in the system.
for
Yes, ma'am.
processing. Okay. And also, you know, as I mentioned earlier on deaths, you certainly can project those. You can project death, but you can't predict it. Simply being in healthcare, Bill, I realize how we have spent many years just projecting, but at the end of the year, our predictions are always off. It depends on, because death is something that comes unannounced, and it's something that we can't control. So I just needed just a little more insight about, and first of all, the Finance Committee, we actually spotted this trend and noticed, and I serve on the committee, and Vice Chairman is the Finance Committee Chairman, and we noticed that the deaths for cremations are up. So I'm using common sense before we get too far down the pathway to see that it's going to eventually go over. Overall, her budget has been under for the last, can you talk about that budget being under budget?
Yes.
Because that cremation line, you just can't control it.
Yeah, that skews the number for her being over or under target. So when we noticed this change, we knew that we needed to amend her budget, one, to cover for the cremations, and also not to skew that she's running over in her total budget for some expenses that she doesn't have control over.
Right, because for the last couple of months, we've been trending and watching that budget. It's been under. It's been,
Yes.
what, running about 0.3%? What is it? What
Yes,
has it been?
just under 1%, maybe a 0.5% under the target percentage.
Yeah, okay. All right, any questions from the Board of Commissioners? Vice Chairman Robinson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to validate for the record that this topic came before us in the Finance Committee. We did identify this as an issue. And Director Hallman, so in the creation of the budget for our coroner, this is a line item that's isolated in and of itself, separate from perhaps training and other things that are more variable. Can you confirm how that's approached, please?
Yes. What we do is we have a line item within her budget called Other Professional Services, and that line item is where the cremations are charged to. They are within her budget. It's not a separate budget in the sense of a separate department, but that line item within her budget is used for cremations, for indigent.
Thank you. And this is one of those, just for the general public, this is like a non-negotiable. This is what we're supposed to do. This is a service that we're supposed to render to the public. We have to pay our bills in this case, make sure these things are taken care of, and so I won't belabor the point, but it was something that we need to bring forth. To the point, the $5,000 deficit is in addition to the $16,000.
Yes, sir.
With a total of $21,000 in today's amended budget. I yield, Madam Chair.
Okay, Commissioner Mulcair?
Yes, kind of a background issues that kind of talked around a little bit, specifically indigent policy and procedure and how it is established in different locales. So I appreciate the chairman's commitment to look at that in terms of establishing an indigent policy and procedure. And also exploring the use of all Douglas County funeral homes rather than just one or two, and see if perhaps we can contain or perhaps even lower the cost for this procedure, this much-needed procedure. So I appreciate the county chairman addressing those issues. I yield back.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Guider?
Yes, ma'am. Jennifer, you remember back in 2017 when the coroner came before us and asking for her employees to go be employees rather than contracted and everything. And she came before us. She used the number of deaths for January and February of 73. She had a chart and everything, and everything was based on 73, how she was going to overrun her budget because of the 73 done in 2 months. Well, the truth of the matter is there was only 30-something because that was verified by the probate court. She was counting the total number of deaths, not the suspicious deaths that she would be involved in. Excuse me. But anyway, that distorted our vote because wrong information was given to us. We were reminded by Commissioner Mitchell that we shouldn't kick the can down the road. Well, in 2017, we took that can up and we gave her $80,000 to balance her budget for 2017. However, even that did not pay for her budget because she ran over an additional $12,000 before you closed the books. Is that not correct?
That is correct. I don't remember the numbers exactly, but yes, it was over.
Oh, I remember. But anyway, so we amended it 80,000, and that didn't cover her deficit, and then we had to eat another 12,000 at the end of that. And then we increased her 2019 budget by 45,000 because of the trend based on 2017. So we're using inflated figures that she gave us for all the bases, but she's continued the abuse of her car. Did you know that she put $2,600 on her taxpayer car in the month of August?
No, ma'am.
That is from the records. That is from the records. $2,600 paid by the taxpayers, not only for the car and the tires, but also for the gas. So now we're coming back for $21,000 more. What are we supposed to believe? She put in a letter dated in February 2017 that the previous coroner had done 249 investigations. In the minutes of the December of 2017, in the budget hearing, she quoted 124. What are we supposed to believe? Do we care about these figures? Every taxpayer, black or white, Republican or Democrat, should care about these figures because these are substantiated figures. These are not things I've pulled out. She's under an investigation by the DA, and it would have been dismissed, I would assume, long time ago had they not found anything. So I don't know what to believe when she comes before us and she's asking for more money just down the road. Maybe we should take her car away from her. That would help her balance her budget because she's abusing the car. That is on record as abuse. So, and that's taxpayer dollars. I have a problem with this, with the funeral homes. First of all, the funeral homes determine whether or not somebody's indigent. In most cases, the DFACs, they run a report and everything to see if someone is indigent. We were only using 2 out of the 4 funeral homes here in Douglas County, and her 2 deputies work for those funeral homes. Conflict of interest. I don't know what to believe anymore. And so I have a problem stamping my approval on this, because if I do, and knowing these facts, then I am party to anything that is done wrong. And I could be drugged into the investigation. So don't always take what somebody tells you at just point that, you know, as their value, as the value of the information they're giving you. We need to investigate this. We've had an internal audit in this department. It came back with a lot of flaws, a lot of recommendations, and the audit was filed away. That is a problem with me. That should be a problem with everybody that is a taxpayer here in Douglas County. But we do need to look at why don't we use more of the local funeral homes. But we need to come up with a better way of letting the funeral homes determine who is indigent and who is not. In most cases in the counties, they use DFACs, or just about anybody could check to see if there are discrepancies in what is being told. I've seen other bills where our deputy coroners go out into Paulding County to do an investigation and then charge Douglas County taxpayers for it. That's on record. We need to scrutinize this whole department and not just take what they say at value. And I yield back.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Ryder. I have taken the time to actually evaluate when I say the bills or the charges from the funeral homes, because that was one of my questions as well. I said, why are the funeral homes determining who's indigent or not? And that's been a common practice in Douglas County since the existence. I'll be willing to work with DFACs to see if they can intervene, and we could have an affidavit form, which we talked about going forward. And as Commissioner Mulcair just mentioned, that's something that I need to take the time to do and see what we can do with the affidavit to make sure that our citizens are actually indigent. But in the past, this county has just paid that $9.85. And also, I'll be working with the coroner to see if she can negotiate those prices down from $9.95. They've been we've been paying $9.95 since 2010. So I got to go back and try to peel the onion back to see what I can do to change the atmosphere with those funeral homes. But a lot of times, those indigent patients or citizens are already at the funeral home. So a lot of times, the coroner's office don't even see them. They've just been declared by the funeral home as indigent. So they're not actually picking them up. I did find that out as well. So it's not like they're going to get the body and then take them and say they're indigent. The funeral home may have a body that has come to them and they declared the body is indigent, and the county gets the invoice because we've been the fallback for so many years. But certainly want to make sure that we take care of our citizens from sunrise to sunset. And I said that so many times, and I will continue to do that. And with that being said, I'm going to call for a vote. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please prepare to cast your votes. We have a 3-1, and the motion carries. Thank you so much, and thank you, Director Hallman, for coming forward. Next, we have on our agenda, as we move forward, we have another business item, tab number 9, authorization to purchase required temporary easement on parcel ID 037418200060, located at 530 Thornton Road, not to exceed $1,110 in connection with the Maxim Road Congestion Reduction and Improvement Project, P1001261, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents. Director Valentin, if you just want to come forward in case the Board of Commissioners have questions for you. if you could just tell us a little bit about this new business item.
Good morning, Madam Chair,
Good morning.
Commissioners. Yes, this is a parcel that we require in connection with the Maxim Road Improvement Project off of Thornton Road. That project is going to provide some additional turn lanes. It's going to widen the radius at the intersection and traffic signal improvements in that area to facilitate mobility through that intersection and along Maxim Road. It's going to add sidewalks as well on both sides of the road. There are a number of pedestrians from residences in that area that walk to the Kroger at that intersection, and so this project is going to provide sidewalks. At the moment, they're walking in the grass strip.
Okay, any questions from the Board of Commissioners? Commissioner Robinson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. This is an important project that we've been anticipating for a long time. And the intersection of Thornton Road and Maxim is one in which GDOT has been out here. We've had joint input meetings with Cobb County, our commissioner over there, Lisa Cupid, who's the vice chairman. I appreciate her participation in times past. We've had public engagement about the importance of this. I mean, that's a very high, dense area. It's one of the most trafficked area. It's one of the most fatality areas in the state as it relates to pedestrian to vehicle deaths. We recognize when you have Paulding County, Cobb County, and Douglas all converging right there, it is something that is long overdue. I appreciate the fact that sidewalks is something that this area has always advocated for, and see that they are part of this. So you mentioned that just for the record, you said there's going to be additional lanes added. Can you tell us how many lanes?
Well, there is going to be a lane on Maxim Road. It's essentially going to provide wider lanes as it approaches the intersection. So it's not necessarily going to add lanes in terms of capacity, but it's going to make them wider and facilitate the truck movements coming out of Maxim Road on the one side and also on the southbound direction as well. There are turn lanes there already, but they're tight, and so the radii are going to be improved to facilitate the turning movement.
And again, I won't belabor it, but if you think about, we've got apartments there, we've got houses there in that whole area, we've got the commercial that is all right there. And it's just one of those areas where, again, Douglas County has different character areas. And this is something I just want to reemphasize, that in this area, which is District 2, we tend to look more like Cobb and Fulton. It's an overflow. Its nature is because of the proximity, it's dense. And so some of the things that we must do in our area may be slightly different than some of the other areas. It's not an either or, but it's something that we have to coexist and we must accommodate. So, Miguel, thank you for taking this up. This is something that you've inherited. We want to see it to completion. So with this being said, the right-of-way is done. And so that means we're probably pretty much close to get some type of notice to move forward. When do we anticipate that this could actually be done? Just anticipate it. Obviously, we're not binding you on this.
We're anticipating that the project will be certified for construction before the end of the year, and it will be advertised for construction, and if all goes well, construction will begin in the spring of 2019.
Spring of 2019. Thank you, Madam Chair. I yield.
Okay, any other questions from the board? Okay, I'll move forward. Board of Commissioners, do we have a motion to authorize to purchase required temporary easement on parcel IDs number 0374-1820060?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please cast your votes. I'm sorry. Just cast your votes. We have a unanimous 4-0 vote, and the motion carries. We will move next to our consent agenda. Consent agenda tab number 10, authorization to accept the ARC Senior and Disabled Transportation Voucher Grant, AG 1917 for July 2018 through June 2019, and create and fill part-time voucher clerk position that is 80% funded by the grant, and amend the budget and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents. Tab number 11, authorization to purchase 8 additional 15-passenger cutaway vehicles for the fixed route bus service and amend the 2018 budget to include $446,400 in federal grant funds as recommended by the Transportation Committee. Tab number 12, authorization to approve an employment agreement with Joseph Cusack in the District Attorney's Office in order to fill a vacancy, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents. Tab number 13, authorization to approve an employment agreement with Jasmine Jackson as an assistant public defender in state court in order to fill a vacancy, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents. Tab number 14, authorization to approve an agreement with the Douglas County Board of Education for the addition of a school resource officer in the amount of $64,728.84, with salary and benefits being funded by the Board of Education, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents. Tab number 15, authorization to negotiate a contract with KCI Technologies Incorporation to provide consultant services for the transportation scoping study for the I-20 at Chapel Hill Road diverging Diamond interchange. Tab number 16, authorization to negotiate a contract with Pond and Company Incorporation to provide consultant services for the transportation scoping study for the Lee Road Extension Project. Tab number 17, authorization to create a new position of SPLOST project engineer in the Transportation Department to manage, inspect, and oversee the construction of transportation projects and coordinate testing for quality assurance to be funded by 2016 SPLOST funds. Tab number 18, authorization to approve a purchase and sale agreement for the purchase of land located in Fairplay for purposes of building a telecommunications tower to be funded through 2016 SPLOST funds, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents. Tab number 19, authorization to approve a memorandum of understanding with Austell Natural Gas System for purposes of building a telecommunications tower to be funded through 2016 SPLOST funds, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents. Tab number 20, authorization to approve an employment agreement with Jamie Dampermont in the Juvenile Program Administrations Department as case manager, specialized services, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents. That concludes our consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve?
So move.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on any particular item? Commissioner Robinson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If it pleases you, I'm going to bring Gary Watson down, Madam Chair, and though I have some other comments, some of my colleagues may want to weigh in while he's up here, so I won't make it choppy, if that's okay.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. Let's start with number 11.
Okay, you're talking about the,
Authorization to purchase 8 additional 15-passenger cutaway
Cutaways.
vehicles.
okay, sure. We already have 4 of the cutaways in our fleet. We're estimating that we need 8 additional cutaways for the 4 routes that we have proposed. We need the 12 total cutaways for the fleet to have 2 backups, 2 to run the required ADA paratransit service, and then 8 of the vehicles for the 4 routes that will be running. We need the 8 vehicles for the 4 routes in order to meet the 30 to 45 minute headway that we're trying to accomplish.
Okay, so we've got 4 currently. We're
Correct.
buying an additional 8. This is dealing with the new transit service that we're bringing online.
Yes, sir.
Fixed route. And do we intend, now, 8, does it deal with backup buses? How do we deal with an event that something happens? Life happens, things break down, and again, my colleagues may weigh in. When it comes to fleet, this sounds like this is the minimum requirement. Is there an expectation that perhaps we need to have, talk to us about that. I'm just trying to anticipate what I'm looking at.
Well, that, as I said, in this 12, it includes 2 vehicles that we will use as backups in case we have a breakdown. So we'll save 2 for backups, 2 to operate the ADA paratransit, and then 8 to run the 4 routes with.
Okay, so the current 4 we have, they're not being used by some other department or agency. They're just somewhere warehoused in a, I need to hear that this is going to be dedicated to this system. I know from time to time, and I'm okay with that, that collectively, different agencies within the county may leverage our assets in the absence of having, just this indispensable number of vehicles. But these are going to be totally dedicated. There will not be opportunities to be pulled into some other areas. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's accurate, yes, sir.
Okay, all right. And last thing is that I want to be clear that as it relates to budgeting, that this money was in the budget?
Yeah, the local match is in the
local budget?
Yes,
okay.
sir.
All right, clarify that for us, because there might have been some confusion that we didn't think buses were inside this year's budget. It is accurate that the term buses was not there, but the allocation of the dollars was in the event that there was an approval of the buses as it was. Confirm for us that the dollars are there.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. All right, Madam Chair, I'm going to go ahead and yield for now to anybody else.
Okay. Commissioner Guider?
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to start with number 10, the senior and disabled transportation voucher. We're buying 120 vouchers with this grant, and we still have about 80 to 100 people on the waiting list, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And yesterday, we talked about maybe different ways where we could acquire additional vouchers for our seniors. And I suggested maybe corporate sponsorship. Are y'all going to pursue something along that line so that next year maybe we can do 200 vouchers?
Yes, ma'am. If this motion passes and we're able to create the part-time voucher clerk, that will free up time for our mobility coordinator to go out and solicit sponsorships.
Organizations, maybe?
Organizations from agencies, various dialysis clinics and things like that to hopefully get
And
some
hospitals.
sponsorships. Yes, ma'am.
And doctors, maybe?
Correct. Mhm.
Okay. Okay, and on number 11, Commissioner Robinson mentioned that the word buses was not in the budget. What did it say? Because I can't remember. What did the terminology say in the budget for the matching funds?
Well, and I may need Mr. Till or Jennifer Holland to help out with this, but we had an allocation of $500,000 out of the Capital Transportation Fund for the local match for ride share projects. And we've used some of that money for our projects, but there was a balance of about, I think, $145,000, $150,000 from that allocation, and that's what we're using for the local match for the cutaways.
It was kind of grouped together, I guess.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and what are your estimates as far as ridership fees? What portion will that help pay for the buses for next year?
Well, the industry standard is 25%. Now, this being our first year, I don't know if we'll meet that.
Is that
or
our
not.
standard now, 25%?
That's the nationwide industry standard for fixed route.
Okay.
So we don't have any history on that for our system yet.
But we have the Van Poos and we have the Greta buses, and that is way down, I think 45% since 2014. But do you think that's going to roll over into this program, that shortage? You don't know?
Don't know till we try.
Yeah, okay, I yield back.
Okay. Any other questions from the Board of Commissioners for Director Watson? Okay, thank you so much, Director Watson. All right. Board of Commissioners. Any
Madam
other
Chair?
questions
Yeah.
on a particular item? Vice Chairman Robinson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. All right, thank you for adjusting the process. Number 16, can someone come speak to the consulting that we're doing, the extension? I'm not certain who's here to address.
Director Peacock and Director Valentina, please come forward. Thank you.
Bill Peacock, thank you, Madam Chairman. I've got Director Miguel Valentin with me. Number 16 is to negotiate the contract with Pond and Company to provide the consulting services for the Lee Road extension, and that is the section of Lee Road where Lee Road terminates into Highway 92 and would going to extend eventually to Beaumont or Chapel Hill Road. So this is the initial scoping consulting that study that will actually do that to lay out perhaps how that extension will be placed between 92 and Beaumont or Chapel Hill Road.
Is this specifically the road, or is it the area? Which I see are two separate things.
There are two studies,
Yep.
and again, Director Valentin can speak to it probably more than I can, but we've got this consulting is for the road itself, to actually lay out the topology and the direction that the road would take. And the other study is actually on how the county would want to use the surrounding property and how we'd want to develop that property along the road once the road's there.
Okay. All right, I got you. So, and I'll keep it simple. And so this is just to negotiate. We don't know the price yet, so we're not at that, what it would cost to do this, right?
We are not. We've had the first telephone discussion with this company about the fees and more about the scope.
Yes.
Than to make sure that they and us are on the same page as far as what the scope of the study will be and what the product is that they'll bring back to us at the end of the study. But we have spoken to them about fees. They are going to be providing us by tomorrow an update on the fees based on whatever scope changes were made in our discussion last week. Mm-hmm. So we will negotiate the fee. We will bring that back before the board and ask you to approve that and approve the contract with this consultant once we are at that point.
And if I may, Commissioner,
Please.
to your question about differentiating between the planning element and the road element, the way we envision this going forward, this process, looking at the road, looking at the mobility component, the traffic projections, is going to play out over a year's period of time. The planning study is going to be completed within a month or so, or perhaps a couple of months on the outside. So that element is going to be ahead of this. However, I would envision that once the study for the road is completed, that it will drive the alignment of the road component. So the planning element will have to adjust to the final or the findings of the transportation study.
And so to that point, and this is just for the broader education of both this body as well as the broader community, we've got there's a lot of consultants. I'm going to say relatively speaking, I don't want to say a lot. We've got many consultants, and I guess I'm always about, are they aligned? Are they talking? Do we anticipate this? Do we anticipate like, oh, we didn't know we needed to adjust this, therefore the scope on the back end now needs to be revisited. So it's just, and where I'm going ultimately is the sourcing for funding. So go ahead, answer that first.
They are aligned to the extent that the consultant that's doing the planning study is aware of the road component coming online, and essentially they're having to adjust to it. Now, they have not been in communications as of yet because the board hasn't established the second consultant we've identified. We're negotiating the contract. Once they come online and we have a contract with them, then they certainly will be having conversations as to the progress made on the planning side and what the transportation road study is going to need from them.
Okay. And I just want to clarify, I mean, some of you might have been citizens attended September Saturdays, and there were a consultant there that had the Lee Road, and they were asking for public engagement. And so can we clarify what that is? Again, when we're out there in the public and we're engaging them about one thing, and you guys are before us, can somebody explain what that was out there we were engaging the public on?
Well, there is another effort ongoing related to the transit services. And they were out there having had a display, and they're doing outreach related to the transit component. And that is really essentially informing, providing additional information to the public related to existing services and upcoming fixed bus route services. So yet a third effort, but independent of the two the planning study and the transportation study.
No, I duly noted. So there may be a fourth, a separate booth at the other end of it. But this begets my point. Maybe the county administrator can clarify. Somebody has to. Who was there asking for public engagement, and how does this line up? Because it was Lee Road, and they were showing the big map. And can somebody help us? Anyone? Okay. Well,
Commissioner, the only other element that I'm aware of that would have had a map that perhaps showed a potential alignment connectivity.
It showed housing, it showed conservation, it showed parks, it showed it from Fairview Road all the way over. And it was a concept. And they were asking the public what they thought about it, and I participated in it. Meaning, I just watched. I let the citizens do what the citizens do, but I'm trying to align. There's a lot going on, and I need.
It probably, Commissioner, it probably was in connection with the planning study.
Yes, that's correct. That's the planning study with Ron Roberts. That was that group showing land use, and I think Chris Pumphrey was involved. He's involved in that process as well, but that's the planning study, not the scope and study for the road. Two totally different projects. But they will work together.
All right. And again, I'm just trying to clarify. I'm not belaboring it, but I just wanted to be accountable to the citizens when I couldn't answer the question. So I appreciate you guys clarifying what this was and how we're spending the taxpayers' money. Madam Chair, I yield. I'm good. Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Commissioner Guider.
Yes, ma'am. Miguel, we already have Lee Road from the bridge on I-20 down to 92. Do we have the funds to build that road yet?
We do not. We don't have all the funds that is going to.
We've bought all the right-of-way.
Yes.
But so are we applying for a grant to build the road? Or are we going to have to build the road or what?
Well, there
I'm
is.
confused about the three aspects of Lee Road. Okay.
Actually, well, let me see if I can summarize. There's actually 4 aspects to Lee Road. Phase 1 goes from 78 to I-20. That is a segment of road that was originally designed up to a certain point, and then it was sort of held in abeyance in favor of Phase 2, which takes it from I-20 to Fairburn Road. The bridge was another phase of it, so that technically would be Phase 3. The Lee Road extension that picks up from Route 92, the scoping study from Route 92 to Chapel Hill would be Phase 4. Your question is, I believe, related to Phase 2, the I-20 to Fairburn Road project. All of the right-of-way has been purchased there. Mm-hmm. There were a number of condemnations, so that process is still ongoing. But the project was certified for construction, and what is lacking is all of the funding. The estimate originally was in the neighborhood of $12 million very early on. By the time it was finalized and certified for construction, the total is more like $21 million, including construction and all the other items. There is federal funding that was allocated to the project originally, and so we're
21 million?
no, ma'am. Unfortunately, it was more along the lines of 6 million. And so we're in the process of trying to make sure that all of the funding that was originally allocated to the project is still viable. So that is one component. Now, there is an opportunity that will come up as the Atlanta Regional Commission opens up new opportunities for additional funding on existing projects or including new projects.
Is that under the ATL?
No, this would be under the ARC, is independent of the ATL.
Okay.
The ATL is related to the transit component. The ARC deals with both transit and transportation. So this is strictly.
You can't get there without the roads.
No, but so the opportunity will be there. My understanding from the Atlanta Regional Commission is that in 2019, they will open up another opportunity for seeking funding, so the county would be able to apply. But at this point, to answer your question, not all the funding is in place.
Well, do we have the scoping from Highway 78 to the bridge on I-20? Have we already, do we need
have
a
the
scoping?
There was the scope, there was a concept report done, and there was preliminary design beyond the concept report. So there are plans that are preliminary in nature. Now, that was done perhaps 10, 12 years ago, and the regulations have changed. So if we wanted to pick up that element, we would have to do a scoping study initially, and then go back to preliminary engineering design.
I'm just concerned that we're putting too much on our plate. At one time, we're looking at yet another part of the ARC when we haven't even begun the construction on the other two parts of the ARC. So it seems like we would do one before we'd start the other. But here we are, because a lot of things can change in 10 years. You're talking about something probably 10 years out, right?
The product from this consulting company wouldn't even be available, the concept plan wouldn't even be available to the end of 2019.
But what if property sells and somebody comes in there and develops something out there where you plan to put the road in 10 years? So that's what I'm saying. Are we looking too far out? Why don't we clear up what's already on our plate and get the funding for it before we go looking for something else?
I understand your point, Commissioner. It's a valid point. One thing that I will say about that, transportation is a long-term proposition, and you have to actually maintain a pipeline of projects. You have to start doing the scoping phase and the preliminary engineering on one project so that 5, 6, 7 years down the line, when you're ready to go to construction, you're able to secure the funding.
But you just quoted 12 years ago for the part between Highway 78 and the bridge. So we're way out of that window. So when are we going to start building roads, widening roads?
We're going to start, hopefully, in 2019, we will have 2 projects that we will begin building roads.
That would be on both sides of I-20?
No,
both legs on it? No?
I wasn't referring to Lee Road. I was referring to 2 other projects that are in the pipeline.
Well, it's just my personal opinion. I think we're putting too much on our plate at one time. We need to address the issues that are right here that we need to get from point A to point B before we do from D to E. And we just, seems like we're just going too far out. I know you have to have a lot of vision when you're dealing with roads and everything, but as I said, what if a developer comes in there and buys up all the land that you wanted to put your road through? So, and puts a big warehouse or something there, or a bunch of houses. So it just seems like we're going too far out. But anyway, I yield back.
Okay, thank you so much. We have a motion and a second. Commissioners, please prepare to cast your votes. We have a 4-0 unanimous vote for the consent agenda, and this consent agenda has passed and approved. Next, we have our announcements from our communications department. I will ask our coordinator of communications to come forward, Ms. Lena Hardy. Good morning, Lena.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Okay, we have 5 announcements this morning. There will be a public input meeting regarding the senior center being built in Lithia Springs by SPLOST funds. The meeting will occur on October 4th from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. at First Baptist Church of Lithia Springs. The address is 3566 Veterans Memorial Highway. For more information, contact David Good at 2016splost@gmail.com. There will also be a community engagement meeting on the Multi-Purpose Center on Monday, October 8th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. This meeting will take place at Boundary Waters Aquatic Center. This meeting is public and open to provide input on the project. You can also contact David Good at his email 2016splost@gmail.com. Commissioner Henry Mitchell and the Tax Commissioner Gregory Baker will be hosting his Coffee and Conversation on Saturday, October 6th from 10 a.m. to 12 noon at Brookview Apartments Leasing Office. That address is 8460 Hospital Drive. There will also be 2 public hearings will be held regarding the grant application for congestion mitigation and air quality funds from the Federal Transit Administration. The first meeting will occur on October 16th at 6 p.m. as part of the regular meeting of the Douglas County Board of Commissioners. The second public hearing will be at 10 a.m. on November 6th as part of the Douglas County Board of Commissioners regular meeting. The grant will be used to fund the first 3 years operation of the fixed route bus service in Douglas County. And Commissioner Robinson, would you like to speak on your HOA boot camp?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, before I do that, I want to clarify what I thought I might have heard, which is there is going to be a multi-purpose public engagement input meeting, and I think I heard October 8th. Is that accurate? And if so, I thought it was going to be at Deer Lake, not Boundary Waters. Is Gary, or Dave, somebody come?
Mr. Good is here.
Good.
Mr. David Good, thank you so much.
Yes, Commissioner, you are correct. That meeting on October 8th from 6 to 8 p.m. will be over at Deer Lake Park over there in the meeting room, and it will be about what's being built at the Boundary Waters location.
Okay, so I just want to clarify for the public that, Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so yes, this coming Saturday, October 6th from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Deer Lake Park, having a 3rd annual HOA boot camp. We've got a keynote speakers there going to be State Representative William Bodie Jr. as well as Senator Donzella James has been invited. We are going to tackle some topics dealing with getting input regarding blighted areas in the community and what the public actually thinks of that topic. As you know, we began a public policy conversation yesterday during the work session, but it's also important to go out and get input from citizens along the way. So we're going to, while that does not serve as a public hearing on the policy, it does allow me as the district commissioner to get insight as to what position I'll be taking on that. In addition to that, we're going to cover some neighborhood, what we want to call neighborhood planning organizations, some structures that allow the public to give input. Obviously, we're going to cover, obviously, public engagement on the multi-purpose recreation center as well. So it's going to be fun-packed. I mean, it's going to be very rich in exchange. This does not serve as my town hall, which will, I think, occurs on October 24th. That is a separate meeting, but that's dealing with the actual budget itself. This is dealing with topics that are more closer to the public themselves. Madam Chair, I yield on that.
Thank you so much. Any other discussions or items from the Board of Commissioners? At this time, with that, no other discussion. This time, this meeting will adjourn for a recess until we return for our 6 p.m.
We don't have.
PNC meeting was canceled.
Okay. At this time, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much.
Oh, very good.